The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wrestling to the Max's review for 205 Live. Once again, I'm your host, Paul Leazar, sitting in for Sean Garmer, who is still stuck without power out there in Miami due to Hurricane Irma. We wish all those people out there the very best. All of our prayers, all that good stuff, good vibes, all going out that way towards those folks. I am joined once again by the now newly nicknamed usual suspect, Harry Broadhurst.
Absolutely. Not down since day one, but I am a usual suspect.
It's true. It is true. And of course, we are brought to you by 411mania.com, Last Word on ProWrestling.com, also that's sports, and W2Mnet.com, which of course is our own website that has all of our great podcasts on there related to wrestling, football, entertainment, all sorts of great stuff out there. Video games as well. It's always one to forget. So we got
MMA.
And MMA, of course, yes.
Got to give a shout out to my Raw Reaction co-host Robert Taylor, who's doing a phenomenal job with his MMA to the Max podcast here on the W2M network.
True story. Absolutely true. And of course, we can be found anywhere podcasts can be found. Apple, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, so on and so forth. YouTube, all that great stuff. So 205 Live opens up Rich Swann having some promo time talking about his match with TJP. They have both of them sit in there to basically go over the history of their feud so far to sort of, I guess, play for time since they're tearing apart the Mae Young Classic stuff to put on the 205 Live stuff. And Swann promises not to lose. And that brings us to the match. Rich Swann takes on TJP. 12 minutes. These guys work so hard, nobody cares. Which is just, might as well be the story of 205 Live's autobiography at this point.
No kidding there. Yeah, fantastic match, great finish, and that was the crowd response.
Yep.
Going live at 10:30 p.m. Eastern was a fantastic idea, guys.
Smart move. Rich Swann does win with a Phoenix Splash, basically having a murder death kill TJP here to keep him down, because, I mean, they throw everything but the kitchen sink at each other. And
yeah, it was like a rich kick, and then there was something else that took something else after the rich kick that took TJ actually down to the canvas. The cross leg brainbuster. It came from Japan by Alex Shelley.
I don't remember Rich Swann's name for it, unfortunately. I know he had a Michinoku driver. I know before he went up for the Phoenix Splash.
Yeah, that's the one I'm referring to. Like he hooked the legs and then hit like a Northern Lights bomb out of it.
And
then that's what led to the Phoenix Splash for the finish.
I forget Shelley's name for it then.
Alex Shelley calls it came from Japan.
Oh.
I don't remember Rich Swann's name for it.
I mean, Shelley's just such a great namer of things, honestly. There's no reason to try to top it. And, of course, during the post-match, Rich wants a handshake since they're supposed to be buddies. TJ kind of shakes it off at first, but then turns Swann around, shakes his hand, and then leaves in frustration. So maybe not everything so swell for those two. And then we get some highlights of Enzo earning his title shot last week. Cedric going on his monster run, essentially all the way up until Enzo sneaks in to steal it from him. And that brings us to Cedric backstage with Mustafa Ali, who are talking about everything, and sort of downplays how Enzo sort of outsmarted him, and he says if he just keeps doing what he's doing, he's eventually going to get to where he wants to be. This brings in Brian Kendrick, who runs him down and all this other stuff, and Alexander says, I don't have to resort to what you do to be able to get where I want to be. And Kendrick goes back in my day, Pepperidge Farm remembered, basically.
He member buried him.
He sure did, buddy.
The backstage segment between the two was nothing much other than to set up the match a little bit later on. The match is what I really want to talk about, and especially the finish, but we'll get there.
We will get there because Drew Gulak is back, and he's got himself another... he wants to finish his PowerPoint presentation, which I am all for.
With with a ringing endorsement from Microsoft Office, I might add.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
They wanted to know what was on slide 3, and damn it, Drew was going to tell them.
100%.
Slide 3, of course, was No Chance, and even makes a Mr. McMahon pun out of it with No Chance, which was just beautiful.
There are no chance in hell.
That's true. I also like Larry's joke here where he says that Drew said that he feels like they should compete in complete silence. Well, easy enough for me to say. And he goes, well, you're already pretty close, Drew. So.
Yeah, that would have been probably about the same joke I would have made there. It would have been something along the lines of, wait, you mean they aren't already?
Yeah. Slide 4, of course, is no elaborate ring gear, and they show a caw from, it has to be one of the more recent Raw vs. SmackDown games or the 2K series, and it's one of Okada, who's got this crazy mask on and his big jacket and everything like that, which just made me laugh so much harder. And then slide 5. Go ahead.
I actually thought it was like a parody of Grand Metalik.
Oh, no, that's totally Okada.
Okay, that even makes it funnier.
Yeah. And then slide 5 is no interruptions because it's rude. And that brings a police siren out, and I'm still living in the 90s, and it was like, oh my god, Scott Steiner's here. But it's the Fashion Police.
That is the second Scott Steiner reference we've managed to make tonight.
Tyler Breeze and Fandango come out, make fun of Drew Gulak, call him Captain Underpants. Basically, they're here because they've gotten so many complaints about Drew Gulak's fashion violations that they had to come in and call him a disgusting freak. And he tries to leave, but he sort of shoves him aside. And, of course, you can't put your hands on a fashion officer like that. That rings up the charge. They got to arrest him. Breeze reads him his rights, which, of course, are all fashion-related. And the crowd, I don't know if they were happy that the segment was just over or if they legitimately were into all that, but they give him a round of applause as they escort him out.
If there is anything that I have learned from reading the SmackDown reviews and doing the SmackDown reviews with yourself or Sean, Breeze and Fandango are over.
Yeah.
That's the big takeaway here. The opening contest, not so much. This segment, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the crowd was certainly up in arms.
And this is just something that we've been talking about, too, on the various shows and stuff. I know it's constantly brought up by myself and Tony. You can listen to us every Monday night at 11:30, cheap plug. But it's constantly brought up by us that in order to make the Cruiserweight division seem like it's less of a fish out of water is to have them interact with everybody else on the roster. Mm-hmm. We saw it on Raw with Enzo Amore getting involved with Miz.
Yep.
I mean, that's you can kind of take that segment or leave it depending on your opinions. I thought Miz was once again fantastic. Mm-hmm. But and then you saw it tonight with Drew Gulak and the Fashion Police, to which I'm kind of hoping that they end up taking Gulak and Nice off of 205 Live and move them to SmackDown as a tag team.
You know, I often wonder if they ever do decide to gut 205 Live, how many of these guys are they going to keep and what are they going to do with them, you know? And I kind of like the interactions already with the main roster this week because it gives me hope that maybe Neville can move up and challenge for some other stuff and see if the gimmick can fly outside of 205 Live. I feel like Neville would be a perfect challenger for AJ Styles' U.S. Open Challenge. I agree with you entirely on that. We saw what his match with Cena did for him for the U.S. Open Challenge originally. Why not have him challenge AJ as well? I mean, it theoretically it makes sense. It puts a nice little spin on a historical perspective as well, with him having previously challenged during the Cena reign at the U.S. Open Challenge, and it'll be a damn fantastic match. All of that, plus I would love to hear him proclaim himself as the king of the United States. Okay, that just made me chuckle a little, yeah. I can't lie. So we got main event here. Cedric Alexander taking on the goddamn professional Brian Kendrick. Yes! I don't care. When Sean comes back, it doesn't matter. He's still the goddamn professional Brian Kendrick. The GDP, Brian. And if Sean doesn't want to use those words, he will be henceforth known as the GDP Brian Kendrick. We'll know what it means. That's all that matters. It's very true. They have themselves a nice little 3-minute match before Brian Kendrick decides to maybe go a little too far and starts. Oh Jesus, I'm blanking. He takes off his belt buckle and tries to.
Actually.
Good.
Are you referring to the spot in the corner where he drops Cedric throat first across the buckle?
Maybe that. I know he goes a little bit further because something brings Jack Gallagher out.
The bit that put this leads directly into the finish. The bit that put Alexander on the floor is they were fighting in the turnbuckles, and Kendrick removed the covering for the bolt that holds the turnbuckle to the post.
That's it.
And then he dropped Alexander throat first across
throat first, right. Okay. And that, of course, as Kendrick looks to capitalize, this brings Gallagher out, who looks to attack Kendrick, who runs outside, grabs the ring bell, throws it in, and Gallagher steps on it, looks all menacing, and backs Kendrick down to where he's cowering in the corner, and then turns around and just absolutely destroys Cedric with William III, which he breaks across his back, and just beats the living hell out of him. Looking like a serial killer the entire time. I love Kendrick's face and just the utter shock that he keeps etched on there the entire time because he is the goddamn professional. And
Truth.
Yeah, I mean, Gallagher just looks like a serial killer at the end. As we were talking about off air, Patrick called him Jack the Ripper, which is, I think, exactly what they were going for.
Yeah, he's that guy that he'll maintain a gentleman composure until he absolutely doesn't have to anymore. You know what it is? He is a wrestling version of Dexter.
Yeah, kinda. Maybe without the vigilante thing, but...
Oh, no. Maybe he feels Cedric Alexander wronged him. Maybe he feels like Cedric took his place in the Fatal 5-Way match the previous week.
Maybe so.
I'd love it. I'm looking forward to... I actually think Gallagher's one of the better mic guys on 205 Live, so I'm looking forward to his explanation next Tuesday night.
I agree with you entirely. I think he's one of the most interesting people on the Purple Show, if you ask me. So, and I like him feuding with Cedric. Cedric is a phenomenal talent, if you ask me. As far as ring stuff goes, promos could still use a little work, but I think like Dolph, he can't miss in the ring, and he's got a charisma that sort of draws you into all that as well. So
yeah, as charismatic as Brian Kendrick is on the microphone, in ring these days, he's not anything special anymore. Because, let's be honest, Kendrick's best days in ring are behind him. Cedric's best days in ring are still ahead of him. So I'm sure that him and Gallagher can tear it up for the better part of the next couple of months feuding with each other.
I absolutely agree. So, I mean, the matches should be terrific, too, just because Gallagher brings that extra special something, I think, to the ring with him every time, too. So, lots at least to look forward to. But that does it for 205 Live. Do you want to plug anything? I mean, you already plugged the reaction, but if you want to plug it again, feel free.
No, I already gave the reaction one plug here. I think that's enough here. I plugged Wrestling Unwrapped in the last show, so I'm going to plug my other W2M Network show here. Tomorrow night, episode 3 of myself, Stephen and Brandon Biscobing as we present The Kickoff here on the W2M Network.
Yeah, talking about all sorts of great stuff. They have, I think you guys talk both college and pro football, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, we have our Studs and Duds segment, which is the best and worst performances of the prior weekend. We have a bunch of topics for Buy and Sell where we have our debate. And then the big one is, Are You Serious? Where we make our upset pick. I actually called Bears over Falcons, and it almost happened.
Almost happened. Yeah, that was a pretty good game.
I'm just going to say this. If that would have happened, they would not have heard the end of it tomorrow on the kickoff. Because they gave me so much crap for that pick, and then it almost happened. Even after we went off the air, they gave me crap about that pick.
Man, if that's not the story of your autobiography, I don't know what is either.
The professionless Harry Broadhurst.
Well,
how about you, Paul? Anything you want to plug?
We do Wrestling to the Max. That's I hear that's a good show around these parts. We review all the shows, obviously, such as this one. Me and Harry just did SmackDown. I do Raw and NXT with Gary. And then, of course, we do our main episodes every Tuesday and Friday, waiting for you there on the download. where we talk about all the news and we review a bunch of other indie stuff, such as Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground, Global Force Wrestling.
Oh, there's one other thing we need to show as well, available on most of these same fine formats. Coming up next, myself, Paul, and Patrick wrap up our coverage of the Mae Young Classic as well.
Absolutely. Talking the finals, we're going to talk about that preview show that they did yesterday, Monday night, if you're listening to this maybe a little later, with that 6-woman tag. And then we'll probably dive into just our thoughts overall on the tournament, which we've probably done way too much, but, that's what we do. So,
Filler. They decided to give the final show only a half an hour. We got to do something.
It's true. It is very true. So look forward to all that stuff. And, of course, we appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next time around.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.